I am a part of all that I have met. Yet all experience is an arch wherethrough gleams that untravelled world, whose margin fades forever and forever when I move.
I want to begin this summary with a blog I read in early February. It came from the Learning Spy and was titled "Learning is Liminal." Liminal is an uncommon word. It means ambiguous, or being in a state of transition. This article opened with a Tennyson quote, with which I've chosen to open my reflection. The article argues that learning is messy and a complicated business, which is no surprise to educators. However, the author argues that the space between not knowing and knowing, that liminal transitional space, is terrifying. To enter a liminal space, we need to accept that our current understanding of the world is flawed, but we don't know what new understanding will replace our current knowledge. As the author wrote, imagine yourself standing before a dark, ominous doorway. Through it, you can glimpse something previously unimagined, but entering and crossing through entails a risk. Anything might happen. But not passing through, while safe, means you will never fully see what's on the other side. Crossing a threshold also risks losing something. We have to let go of old ideas, something which isn't always comfortable. ECMP 355 has had moments where I've experienced this liminal space, where I've needed to question and analyze my worldviews. The first experience I'd like to showcase involved a discussion between myself and Alec on my blog. I had written an article titled "The Right Way to Internet." I was concerned with the normalizing elements of the course and the focus on correct practices of digital citizenship. So I asked for his and Katya's feedback on Twitter, and Alec very quickly got back to me with some great feedback. There were two pieces of this learning that have really stuck with me from the experience. The first is that by pairing a blog space with Twitter, I can pose reflective questions but ask for fairly immediate feedback. Those two time frames are beautifully supplementary. The second piece of learning was around tone in public online spaces. I frequently read tweets that seem to be attacking different viewpoints. I may just be overly sensitive, but I found Alec's tone very reassuring, and I appreciate that tone can exist online in what can be a divisive environment. A second liminal experience happened around our coding assignment. Originally, I had tried an hour of code project, and I found it boring and uninteresting. However, as I read through my peers' blogs, I realized that other projects on the site were more difficult. It inspired me to go back and try again, and the result was this little scribble of an art piece. While it's nothing too impressive, I had much more fun making it than I did playing in the Star Wars themed project. In fact, this led to me making a second blog post on coding, as you can see here. And it got some reaction on Twitter, enough that Leanne and I have actually agreed to meet up in person and try coding together to give her a better experience. And I think that's really interesting that my reading of blogs changed my interpretation of a tool that led to discussion that's now leading to in-person learning, and the whole experience feels very authentic. A third and final liminal moment I want to showcase involved how my learning project led to a deeper understanding of mathematical potential. I had written an article about comments on food blogs, and offhandedly remarked that you can use regular salt instead of kosher salt if you don't focus on eating kosher food. Well, turns out I was wrong. Not only is table salt distinct from kosher salt, the principle extends to the storage of grains. I learned an incredible amount about storage of granular materials that I'll use the next time I teach a Workplace 20 class. Luckily, Marty shared a resource on how to do the calculations of grain compaction, so I have this available for myself and my students. At this point, with the end of ECMP, I've been considering how to best keep myself in a liminal learning space. One thing that has concerned me in recent months is confirmation bias, that I only look for and read articles that support my current understandings, especially of pedagogy. To compensate, I've started following people on Twitter with whom I disagree, and whose blogs I find painful to read. My hope is that I will continue to challenge my current understandings, despite discomfort, moving forward in my online learning. Since I opened this reflection with a quote, it seems fitting that I finish with one. This statement is referred to as Ed Beagle's second law of mathematics education, and he said it in 1971. It's shocking how accurate it remains today. He said, "Mathematics education is much more complicated than you expected, even though you expected it to be more complicated than you expected." There's something very difficult about teaching math, and although technology helps, it doesn't resolve those challenges. I expect I'll still be struggling with math education 20 years from now. I simply hope the questions I'm asking will have changed.